Be cool, don't ask anything weird. And we're gonna get this thing rolling here, all right? So, we got some Terminator fans here in the audience? Yeah? Come on, Aliens fans? Yeah? All right, well, why don't we all give a big Tampa welcome to Michael Biehn! Hey, can you get some water for Michael up here? That'd be great.
It's been good.
Excellent. All right. Michael, welcome to Tampa. Welcome to Tampa.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, I heard, it's Friday, of course, too, and I heard that they give you a little schedule and they say, okay, well, this is what you're going to be doing. So they have a panel. It's like at 1 o'clock. I mean, is there going to be anybody here? So, thanks for showing up. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. First panel of the day. Getting warmed up.
Woo!
So, Michael, it is a pleasure to have you here. I grew up watching your movies. You've been in some amazing franchises over here. Some of the biggest, Aliens.
Well, I've been in some amazing movies, but I've never been part of the franchises. The Terminator franchise, the Alien franchise, you were there. You were there really well for I was at the beginning, but the big payday started to happen.
But you play some of those iconic characters that were out there, Reeds and Hicks and these guys. And how about Coffee in the Abyss, right? When we really stole the show, that was a great role for you.
Yeah.
All these films had something in common, right? That's James Cameron. You must be James Cameron's favorite actor or something.
I don't necessarily know if I'm James Cameron's favorite actor. I don't think he has a favorite actor. I think that he would cast somebody that he thinks is going to be best for his movie. To give you an example, I was not cast for, and I know a lot of you guys know this, but I was not cast for Aliens. There was an actor who was named James Remar, and he was cast as Hicks. And he and Jim had some problems, and they had some difficulties over there, and they replaced him. And I was in Studio City on a Friday afternoon, and Gail Hurd, who doesn't get enough credit for all these movies, is Jim's, when we were doing the Terminator, they were kind of getting together. When we did Aliens, they were married. When we did The Abyss, they were divorced. So I say the whole thing. But she called me up and she said, Michael, is your passport up to date? I was like, yeah. And of course, I had known about this movie, and I wanted to play Hicks, and the word came back, but it looks like he's going to go someplace else. Okay. And she said, do you want to, we're having a little problem over here, and we're wondering if you can come over here and play Hicks. And I thought, yes! And so I got that call on a Friday. Monday morning, with the time change and everything, I was in England on the set, in the armor, and I didn't have to go through that 2.5 weeks of bullshit marching and wearing the salute and everything. So it was a wonderful, wonderful, probably the most, that and Tombstone, probably the most wonderful experiences that I've had, And the thing that was so great about Aliens is when you work on a movie, you really never know if it's very good or not. There's a great movie called, I think it's called The Devil's Candy or something like that. But it's about making a bonfire of vanities. And nobody knows if the movie's any good or not. You just don't know because you've got so much invested into it, including the director, the studio executives. You don't know until you put it in front of an audience. That one turned out to be a big bomb, but because Jim had shown some real talent when he had done the Terminator for $6 million, $6.5 million. We all kind of had that feeling that it was a great script, and we all had that feeling we could be working. And when you see the sets over at Pinewood Studios, you're like, oh my God, you know. We had the feeling that we could be working on something really, really good. So there was kind of like that dynamic that was going on when we did Aliens, and so it was London. It was the '80s. The dollar was twice as strong as the pound, and we had a lot of fun. Or at least I did. Me and Paxton had a lot of fun.
So, let's go to Terminator. So that was basically your first really big budget film, right? That
Well,
was
see, people think about the Terminator and they think about it as being a big budget movie. Actually, it was not a big budget. Oh, by the way, Jim Cameron, you know, the movie's now for $200 million. Jim Cameron made Aliens for $19 million. Wow. Terminator at the time was considered a low budget movie. It was made for $6.5 million, and you know, it was originally approached with it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and at that time he wasn't a star at all. He'd done the Conan, and then who's Jim Cameron, you know? Well, he got fired off of like Piranha 3 and Roger Corman's company. Who's the producer? Gail Hurd. What's she done? She works with Roger Corman too. It's a story about. Stories about this alien that crosses through time, who's trying to kill a girl that works at Bob's Big Boy, and I was like, oh. But I probably owed a house payment or two at the time, so I took the role. And actually, what happened was Arnold's got picked up for Conan the Barbarian 2, I don't know what it was called, but Destroyer. The Destroyer. So I got to, and we didn't know that, we were in pre-production, and so his option got picked up. And so we had 3 months together, me and Jim, really, and Jim and I used to go out, and we got a karate guy, and we did a lot of rolling and tumbling and fighting and so on and so forth, and we also went out and shot a lot of automatic weapons, which was a lot of fun. It was before the Brady Bill and everything, so we had all this like wild stuff. And with Arnold, and he also took me down to Stan Winston, the late great Stan Winston, who won 8 Academy Awards for his special effects. Basically, helped create the Terminator along with Jim, and make it look believable and so on and so forth. He went on to do all the Jurassic Parks and won 8 Academy Awards and passed away. Wonderful, wonderful guy. And you know, at that time, it was a job. It was a fun job, and you knew the job. You know, when I went down and I saw Stan Winston stuff, and I saw how smart Jim was, I thought, well, you know, this would be okay. But, you know, these things weren't around then, but if somebody had told me, you know, 35 years later, you're going to be sitting around talking about this movie, I think I would have, you know, you could have knocked me over with a feather.
Now, you did do a cameo appearance for Terminator 2 that didn't make it into the theatrical cut.
Well, Jim always, and if you look on the internet, you'll see, like, Sigourney has kind of a backstory for Aliens that got cut out. I was there when she got told that. By the way, she got nominated for an Academy Award for that. Where's that water? And then I had a backstory, sort of like for Reese. I think Jim kind of, you know, in the original Terminator, I think he kind of writes those stories in just to get you kind of involved and give you that backstory, and then knows kind of ahead of time when he's going to cut out. Now, Jim, when he made T2, Jim, like most filmmakers that are good filmmakers, they want what they want. They want the movies to be long. They want to be able to tell the stories. But if it's too long, it can only be shown in theaters like twice a night instead of 3 times a night. So he had to cut that movie down and cut it down and cut it down and cut it down. And actually, when they played the previews for it on television, I was still in it, you know. And then I got a call from Jim, and he said, Michael, the movie's just too long, and I've had to take some pieces out. He said, I've got 2 other flashbacks in the movie, and I'm gonna have to take your stuff out. And I was like, it was really, really okay with me, because first of all, they paid me very well. And second of all, I didn't really do anything differently in that movie than I had done in the first movie. I mean, it was the same character, and it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like, oh my God, did you see Michael Biehn in T2? You know, it was like, so, the only problem with that was I didn't get any residuals from the movie.
It's on the Blu-ray out there, right? We should be getting something from that.
Yeah, 20th Century Fox is a little... You know, I heard that, let me see, after Aliens 2, David Giler and, forget the name of the other guy who created it, had to take Fox to court because they had claimed they hadn't made any money. So they had all this creative financing, creative accounting over in Hollywood. But Screen Actors Guild is a very, very strong union, so we always got our residuals. And the thing that was interesting in Aliens was there were like 5 of us. It was me, Bill, Sigourney, who played that guy?
Paul Reiser.
Yes,
Paul Reiser, Sigourney, and like, we were the only Americans there. So we got all the residuals. The rest of them were people that were living in London that were Americans, but you know, and they didn't get any residuals. So I made way, way more residuals than I made in the movie, which I did pretty well for. And then they did D2, and then they did, when they went to do well, this is an alien story, anyway.
That's good. That's good.
You know, aliens, as you know, I was cut out of, and you know, me and Jim were like, Jim was really upset because Jim spent the last third of his movie saving it. I mean, that was like the whole like premise of the last third of his movie, basically, or almost the whole movie was saving Newt. And to have her killed off, you know, at the beginning of the third one was an absolutely ridiculous idea. So,
narratively, it made no sense. Both characters.
And you know, of course, I was upset about it, but I was working on another movie, and I was working with, thank you so much. I was working with Dino De Laurentiis' daughter, Rafaela De Laurentiis, and she said, I was over at Bayshire Penguin Studios. Great filmmaker too, David Fincher went on to win an Academy Award, shot in '87. I mean, he was a great filmmaker, terrible script, but that's what happens when you have bad material. No matter how good of a director you are, it doesn't make any difference. So anyway, she goes, I saw you over there. I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, well, I saw like you and like your face and like your chest was burst open. And they had made a mold of my face while I was over there, so they could put those burns on my face at the end of the movie. So they had a mold of my face over there. So I called my agent, very, very, very famous and fun agent named Ed Romano, and he called the Fox. And we said, did you use Michael's likeness in the movie, meaning my face? And they said, yeah, we just shot the scene and Hicks is going to go out. No, you can't use that. Oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. No. Hicks is, and I was like, you know, back then I was a really, really passionate actor, you know. Probably too passionate. I can't, people used to tell me I cared too much, because, you know, and I said, that's not going to happen. So, you know, I'll see you. And so they started throwing money at me, and I said, no. And it got up into 6 figures, and I said, no. I was making more money back then. And, I'm like the famous actor that, I forgot who it was. They said, what happened to all your money? And, spend it all on women and booze, and the rest I just wasted. I just absolutely would not let hits go out that way. I had such a, thing with him. So they ended up paying me a handsome amount to put a picture of my headshot on the wall. So that's the story.
I think pretty much everyone here has seen Aliens 3, or we all pretty much agree that that was the dumbest thing ever to kill off the extended alien, right? That's pretty much the consensus.
I think Neil Blomkamp thought that, and I think that, this whole thing with Neil and Sigourney's been, for a year, they've been, they wanted to get their movie made, and then Ridley stepped in and decided he wanted to make his. Right. Now, from what I understand, the movie opened, and then, because it's all about money these days. It's just all about money. It's just, everything's about money. But it dropped 90%, and it was out of the theaters within like a couple weeks. So I'm not sure what's going to go on. I think if there's going to be another Aliens movie, it'll be Neil directing it, and if you follow Sigourney, you'll find out whether or not there'll be another one. But it gets, not like that poorly, but not like so great at the box office, So we'll see what happens, I'm going to be around for a while, and if they don't do it, I kind of consider myself the leading man of the best. Not only the best science fiction movie, but the best kind of fan-friendly science fiction movie ever made. There's a Spielberg's movie, and there's The Thing, and there's, like 2001, which I've seen it 5 times. I need somebody to fucking explain the movie. It's not hard,
So just so if it were to come together with Neil for an Aliens 5, which we had tossed, that idea was being tossed around a couple of years ago before.
Well, it went into pre-production. Fox announced it. They announced Sigourney was going to star in it. They announced Neil was going to direct it. They announced that Ridley Scott was going to be the executive producer. I knew some guys that worked in the special effects room, and they were starting to get some material to work on, and then all of a sudden, things just stopped. And I feel like somebody said something wrong to the wrong person, and because it was on its way to being done. And if you watch Sigourney, I think more than anything else, she would love to have that the character created, because she had to suffer through that ugly third and fourth and fifth one, and you would think that they would give her what she wanted, and I thought it was going to be, because by that point, the way that Neil wanted to do it was to act like 3 and 4 never happened, just pick up after 2, okay? So that would mean that, like, I was my age, and a lot of people have seen the artwork that he did on it, and that would mean Newt would be like 26, 27, and some great actress would, I'm sure, want to play that role. And I thought it was going to be kind of a passing of the torch, from Sigourney to this younger gal, and they'd probably kill me off in some, heroic way, which I would be happy with, like the Terminator. That's a good way to go out,
Well, before we get into answer questions real quick, tell us what are you working on now? What are some of your projects?
You know what? I have a hard time working now. I have my own film company, which I'm involved with. I did a movie called Grindhouse with Robert Rodriguez and it's basically about low-budget movies, kind of Roger Corman-like movies, and that's what we do. We give kind of kids, usually young people, a chance to they come into the script and we throw a very small amount of money at them and say, you got 10 days, go shoot it. And everybody that's working on the movies are young, or they're apprentices, and they're learning, and it's kind of a way that I feel like it's kind of like film school. You can go to film school at USC, go to film school at UCLA or NYU or whatever, but until you're on a set, till you're working those 12-hour days, you don't know what it's like to, sometimes you don't be a cameraman or a sound man and have to lug your equipment from this mountaintop to that mountaintop and so on and so forth. And so I had that company, and I worked very early on in my career with not only Jim, but Play Freakin'. I think made the best horror movie that's ever been made, and I don't think there'll ever be another horror movie like The Exorcist. I mean, it was just like, and I worked with Bill, and I worked with Michael Bay, and I worked with some really, really good filmmakers who are like real perfectionists, and they really, So when I started working with other guys that didn't seem to care that much or whatever, I thought, you know what, I'll do a television series in which I can be the star and kind of have a say in. So I did a television series called The Magnificent Seven. It was, there's Lex, you three saw it. At a certain age, if you notice, they don't make westerns anymore. And even back then, it was a very hard sell because they're very expensive to make because everything has to be done, period. And they do not sell well overseas. And if you ask an 18-year-old kid, about, the West, they don't give a shit. They're looking, they're not looking back. And that, we almost got it over the top. We did like 22 episodes. It was a fun series, and a great cast, and a great, John Watson was the producer on it, lovely man, and so that didn't work out. And it's very, very hard to, go to war with Patton and then turn around and have to go to war with, like, the next guy where you're going like, what? Charge now? So that's, and I used to get into a lot of fight with a lot of directors because stuff they wanted me to do didn't make any sense. Kind of got a reputation. A lot of people who have bad reputations are people who go, I'm not gonna do this. It doesn't make any sense. I always try to say, this doesn't make any sense, but if you want to do this instead, I think this will say what you want to say. And I used to approach my directors, and I made some movies that I thought were good. They just didn't, for one reason or another. I worked with Demi Moore on a movie, and I thought it was a good movie. It seemed like a pretty good movie, and then we saw it at the screening, people seemed to like it, but it just didn't have a very good, people just didn't go see it. And there are a lot of movies around, like Blade Runner. Blade Runner, nobody went to see back then, And there's a lot of movies that aren't marketed as well as they should be. And
Let's go to the audience. We'll always have some time. Got a question up there?
Hello? Yeah, what is your favorite line in the Terminator?
Favorite line?
Well, I used to be class what my favorite scene is. My favorite line probably was "They come with me, won't live." And my favorite scene is, of course, the love scene.
You did get to be the romantic lead for a couple of great actors, Buddy Hilton and Sigourney Weaver there.
Believe me, I worked with a lot of lovely, lovely women. Johnny Ringo kind of.
Hey, how you doing, Michael? Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
You mentioned Bill Paxton earlier, and sadly we lost him earlier in the year. And I was just wondering what it was like working with him on Aliens. Always thought Hudson was a great character in that movie and had a lot of great one-liners. Did you guys have a lot of fun with his character on that movie, and just have to take some multiple takes sometimes for the way he would come across or anything?
Well, thank you for the question. Bill and I met when I was 25 years old on a movie called Lords of Discipline, which was shot over in England. And he played my second in command. you know, I was the bad guy. And you know how bad guys always have a bad guy, and then they have their second kind of guys, and then you all stand behind them, like, you know. And so Bill at the time was like, Bill has so much energy in his acting that it came across in his acting too. And so for the first part of Bill's career, it was kind of like, whoa, Bill, just pull it back a little bit, you know. But Bill, I think, saw the dedication that I had about the character that I played. And he always said, you know, Michael Biehn taught me how to act, which is not true at all. A man named Vincent Chase helped him hone his skills and helped him hone his energies down to where he could do the films that, you know, I think that he was best in. Although you're right about Aliens, he was a lot of fun on Aliens, and you know, we just had a blast. We were living in London, you know, like I'm telling you, Chelsea, which is like Beverly Hills, and just like we had money to burn, and we just had a great time. But he took his work very seriously. He actually introduced me to Jim Cameron at the screening of Lords of Discipline. So he had worked with Jim, with Roger Corman. There is a great podcast. There's two podcasts on him. The day I already died, I listened to one of them. And I don't think the other one is quite, this one was, I think he had done, I know he had done after his series, but he was, you know, people always say that, you know, there was nobody like this guy. There was nobody like him. And nobody who had more fun, more energy. He wasn't perfect, you know. He would make a crack here and there, and you know, like. But he had a wonderful marriage and 2 great children. And I woke up this morning saying to my wife, I had a dream. This morning I woke up and said to my wife, I had a dream about Bill. And I've been dreaming about Bill ever since he passed away, so he obviously meant a lot to me. And you know, we did 5 movies together. And, you know, that's almost spending like a year. And usually, like, we were kind of on the same team, so we were always like, we're working against a director that we didn't think knew what he was doing, and like trying to get it right. And, you know, he was very, very smart, very, very smart. He loved art, and he loved history, and he was like I said, there was nobody like Bill Paxton, and I miss him, and I think about him all the time.
Thanks.
What do you think are the good tips of becoming a Terminator? One more time? Oh, sorry. What do you think are good tips of becoming a Terminator?
Sorry, question. I'm sorry. One more time. Sorry. So,
What do you think are good tips of becoming a Terminator?
Just take the microphone away and yell it.
You got it.
What?
What are some good tips of becoming a Terminator?
what are some good tips on becoming a Terminator?
I don't know. This wasn't a Terminator. I gave you some tips on how to get rid of
Hi Mike, thanks very much for being here. Huge fan. I actually have 2 questions.
All right, just one, please, because we got a lot of people.
Oh, can I have 2, please?
Pick one. Sorry, we got a lot of people.
Killing me. Okay.
I'm going to override it. Okay, override.
Good boy. So the first question is, you have 2 female actresses you work with in Linda and Sigourney.
Yeah.
Who now, as time's passed, are you closest to and still in touch with? And the second question, if I had to put you on the spot, Kyle Reese or Hicks, who's your favorite character?
Kyle Reese. And, you know, Sigourney and I were kind of involved in like this life story. But Linda and I worked day in and day out for 11 weeks. And I've said this many times before, we were both married at the time, and I truly fell in love with her. She's just a lovely, lovely, giving person, you know. She didn't have that actress vibe, you know. Her hair had to be perfect, and said, she was like, not like most actresses I've ever worked with. And we worked so closely, and I can remember like staging the love scene and her saying to me, do you mind if I'm on top, if you can put your hands on my breasts? So, I was like, sure, no problem. Linda and I fell in love with her. I was married at the time, and obviously nothing, we didn't hook up or anything, but to this day, I have the fondest memories of her as probably as a lead lady in a big movie like that.
Thanks very much.
How about Hicks versus Reese?
What?
Hicks versus Reese, is that a question?
Oh yeah, I told him.
Reese?
Reese.
Yeah. All right. You're forgiven. Those are good questions.
Hi, big fan. Do you think there's a future for the Terminator franchise?
Well, Jim gets the Terminator. He had a deal when he made the Terminator, would go off and so on and so forth. So Jim now owns the property, or he will at the end of the year or something like that. Now, people once you see the Terminator, or they saw it on the DVD, what people don't realize about the Terminator was, it wasn't even like that big of a hit back then. If you look in 1984 at the top 20 grossing movies of all time, it's nowhere to be seen. It was 24th in grossing movies, so it wasn't even like that big of a hit. And Karate Kid 2 made twice as much money. So people didn't really kind of realize it, until, and it's the same thing that, to a certain extent, with Tombstone, that it wasn't marketed properly and so on and so forth. And I think that Jim will definitely do something with the Terminator. I don't know. I see Jim. I can ask him. But I would doubt that I would be involved in any way. But I don't think that Jim. See, they thought this last one, because Arnold was coming back, was going to be like this big hit. And not only did it not get good reviews, which really doesn't make any difference in the business anymore, it didn't make any money. I mean, it made staggeringly no money and was out of the theaters within a week. And that, I think, surprised everybody. So, I don't know. I know that if Jim Cameron got his hands on it and he really wanted to do something good with it, he would do it. He's obviously doing Avatar, and I'm watching him work on Avatar, and I think that what he would probably do is make his, he would write something, or I'm sure since then he's had 1,000 ideas of what he would have done, and write something and then give it to somebody else to direct. That's what my guess is what he would do. But he has the rights back. So that, because if you look at the Terminator, people always go like, oh, the Terminator's coming out, it's going to be great. No, it's not Jim Cameron's Terminator, Oh, it's a new Aliens, it's going to be great. No, it's not Ridley Scott, and it's not Jim Cameron, And so I think that there will be more, and I think that if Jim does something with it, he'll do something very special with it. Yeah.
You mentioned Tombstone, this is another great character we haven't talked about yet, is Johnny Ringo. You guys remember that? Years ago, but unfortunately had to cancel for family commitments. We could have had a rematch,
Yeah, I don't want to rematch.
We have time for 2 more questions, so here.
Michael Biehn, thank you very much for showing up tonight.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, first of all, I congratulate you, we all do, for ending up with the 2 most iconic chicks in badassery that has ever been in Hollywood. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
And the other question I wanted to ask you was, of all the characters you've played in all the movies, Johnny Ringo, Corporal Hicks, Sergeant Reese, of all of those, who do you feel you identified with most? And if not as a whole person, maybe perhaps the psychology or behavior or some type of action they did, who do you relate to most?
You know, probably, you know, I would say Hicks, just because he was kind of a common man, you know, he, like a lot of our servicemen, you know, they have a job to do, and what's important to them is to get the job done and, you know, protect their people around them, and I think that he is you know, just, I mean, I think he could take, you know, half the people that are serving in the military now, and you know, they would be Hicks-like, so I would say Hicks.
Well, thank you. You were my inspiration for running out there.
Hello. Hello, thanks for being here. My question is, out of all the movies that you made, what was your favorite prop or wardrobe, and what did you keep, and what was your favorite one?
Well, to tell you the truth, I wish I would have kept my props. I just heard the shotgun that I used in Aliens was going for $220,000. So there are a lot of props that I didn't keep, but you know, back then, you know, this whole Comic-Con kind of fandom type of celebrity that we see so common in our society now, it was nowhere to be seen. And so I didn't keep anything. I don't have anything. You know, I think that if there was anything that I would like to have kept was that picture of Linda that she gave me in the Terminator, you know. I think that might have been the picture, but I'll just end it with this, because movies these days, and I don't even believe there are going to be, yeah, right, that's exactly right. I used to, somebody gave me one of those, I used to carry it around my wallet, you know. People would walk up to me and I'd pull it out and they'd be like, oh my God! Totally fake. I'm like, yeah, that's the real thing, man. Crunched it up, you know. Yeah, you mad, man. You got the whole deal, man. You got the shoes, you got the props, you got the, I can't believe you have that. Very nice, very nice. My feeling about films is it's hard to, you know, relate to the films that were made earlier, but, and I know I'm like the old man who's just like, but to me, if you take, because I don't think they're coming back, because money's too important, and that's why they make Fast and Furious 8 and Terminator 5, and you know, of course the kids' movies, which a lot of them are great, you know, but you don't see that many. I mean, you take Jack Nicholson, I say, and Dustin Hoffman, and Jack Nicholson, Dustin Hoffman, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, maybe Robert Redford. I think I'm missing one there, but you take those guys and you watch all of their movies, and to me, those are the best movies that will ever be made. That era of movie making was the best movies that we'll ever see. I didn't see any movies that were that great. I mean, that was when things like that were nominated were One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and The Godfathers and you know, Amadeus and it's just, you know, Apocalypse Now and you know, Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver can't be a word. You know, I mean, it's just crazy. So, listen, thank you for it's not getting up early, for at least showing up. To come see me. I didn't think anybody was going to be here. So.
We actually have 2 minutes to squeeze in. One last question, if you enjoyed this.
Thank you for coming out today. A lot of actors always talk about being pigeonholed in a character and not wanting to play that character over and over again. Like, for instance, Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine. He's done after this last one. How do you feel?
Good, maybe I should throw my name out.
How do you feel about playing characters that work and the audience love over and over again?
The thing about characters, whether they're cops, usually I have a thing that somewhere along the line somebody thought I was a tough guy, which okay, and so what I usually play are cops, DAs, and people that are in the military. And it does not make any difference to me if I play cops the rest of my life, if I play guys in the armed services for the rest of my life, or tough guys. I like the bad guys too, though. The bad guys are really fun. And I've got to go back and forth between the two. And people ask me which ones you like playing better, the bad guys or the good guys? I'm like, I love the bad guys, but the good guys get paid more, so it's kind of a tough thing. What's the original question?
Just what do you think about being pigeonholed and being played by the same character?
It's not about being like, I'd do westerns for the rest of my life if the part that I had to play was a great part. And to give you an example, when they sent Tombstone to me, my agent sent Tombstone to me and said, is there any character in this movie that you would like to play? And as an actor, you read a script and you know, or at least good actors know, that's a great role. That's a great role. And that's why you see, women fighting, not fighting, but everybody knowing what a great role it is and who got cast and so on and so forth, and Gone with the Wind and all these things. And so I got sent the script, and the first thing I said is, yeah, I want to play Doc Holliday. Because I thought I was the best. Kurt was already, set and so on and so forth. But I said, I want to play Doc Holliday. I thought I was the best role in the movie. And then they got back to me and they said, it looks like Val Kilmer's going to play Doc Holliday. And so I looked at it a little bit more and I said, okay, I want to play Johnny Ringo. Because there's a great role. So I don't care if I'm playing a doctor the rest of my life, or if I'm playing
Navy SEAL, you've done that like 3 times, right?
Yeah, except for Navy SEALs itself, which I could go on for about an hour about what a problem that was. It's not about playing like, it's not being typecast. You can only be typecast if you're playing the same role over and over and over again. And I think there are people around like Steven Seagal or Arnold to a certain extent, John Wayne, people like Charlie Sheen. Charlie, when he first started, was a wonderful actor. All of a sudden, he realized he could just be himself and still make $5 million. And by the way, when I worked with Charlie, he was a dream and a lot of fun to be around and totally professional. So I don't know when that started going off the rails. So my point is, it's not about. I'm not worried about being typecast. I'm worried about being handed a role that doesn't make any sense and having them offer me so much money for it. I know I can put my kids through college and go like, okay, well, I'll do it, try to fix it along the way. And you know what? You never can.
Well, thank you so much.
We hope you enjoyed this panel at Tampa Bay Comic Con. Please collect all your